podcast is brought to you by Reimagine Radio. Stay tuned to connect together for more content from the Disability Foundation. My name's Graeme Wyman, the program coordinator with the Vancouver Adapted Music Society. Today, I'm joined by local musician Kristina Shelden. How are you doing today, Kristina?
I'm doing really well, thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Of course.
So, the first question I had was, you said that you always had a love for music at a young age, and one of the movies that inspired you was The Little Mermaid. Mm-hmm. What was it about The Little Mermaid that captivated you at such a young age to be a singer?
Well, Disney has that effect on little girls, doesn't it? To be honest, I think as a child it was just instinct. It was really simple. I just was watching her, and I remember she was leaving the concert to go do other things, and she wanted to be a human, and it might be silly, but I was like, well, I'll switch places with you. Like, that sounds cool. I wouldn't mind being a mermaid in the water and singing all the time. Like, that sounds rad.
For sure, right?
And I just was singing along with her, and I found that it just felt really good. Like, it felt really natural. Mm-hmm. And I think before that I had wanted to be a dancer, and then after I watched Little Mermaid, I went to my dad and I was like, no, I'm gonna be a singer.
There you go.
And for some reason that one stuck.
Priorities, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. And what age were you when that happened?
Oh God, I think I would have been 4 or 5.
Okay, so at a young age.
Yeah, because I was back at Ginger Drive. Yeah, I was real young.
Okay.
Well, it was definitely before grade 3.
Yeah, so you knew what you wanted to do. That's great.
Yeah, and then, like my whole life. And so then, I was put into, my dad, ended up having to put me into choir and vocal lessons and all that. So.
Okay, nice. So you mentioned The Little Mermaid influenced you at a young age. Who are some of the artists that, has subsequently influenced you as you've progressed as a musician?
Well, honestly, Celine Dion is a huge one.
Yeah.
She's just a powerhouse vocalist, phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Mariah Carey, more the younger days.
Okay, yeah.
Like her first album, I loved it. I had it on my cassette and just on repeat over and over. Visions of Love. Yeah. And I Don't Want to Cry was my favorite. I don't want to cry. Anyway, that's okay. Yeah. And then, going forward, a lot of different musicians sort of inspire you. I think I tend to be attracted to great female vocalists, mm-hmm. and actually some great male vocalists as well, of course, but I really identify. So like Sarah Bareilles, I apologize if I'm saying her last name wrong. Mm-hmm. She's phenomenal. I went to see her concert here in Vancouver. It was like a quiet acoustic one at what's the place at Commercial and Broadway? Is it the Fox, the Cabaret, the Rio?
Oh, Cambie and or Main Street and Rio, right. The theater. Yeah,
Rio,
the movie theater. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the Rio.
Yeah.
She played there, and she was. Oh, excuse me. She was pitch perfect. You're gonna have to bleep me. Oh no.
I've done that more than once before, so don't worry about that.
Sorry, potty mouth.
No worries.
Because she was that perfect. Like, she was pitch perfect the entire show. It was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. She actually sang Little Mermaid on that one as well.
Oh, really?
Really awesome.
There you go.
Great.
Full
line.
circle.
Yeah. So tends to be great. Oh, Ella Fitzgerald. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Okay. Yeah. Of course.
Amazing.
No, such a classic and powerful.
That jazzy sound, like that's what kind of got me into the more jazzy sound side of things, mm-hmm. because that's soulful, moving, grooving. It feels really good to sing that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. So, okay, so we kind of see where your background is with your music. So, what was your first time like performing, if you remember, like in front of an audience? And can you maybe tell us a little bit about that experience?
Well, I guess I've been performing in front of audiences since I was a little girl. Like I was in talent shows in school, and I remember we had choir in school, mm-hmm. and embarrassingly, the music teacher called me out and said, "If you hear an angel singing, that's Kristina." It's like, oh God, no.
Pressure's on.
Pressure.
Yeah.
But I think the first time I remember performing more as an adult. I went to an open mic night. It was my first like open mic night, first time in front of a microphone.
Yeah.
First time with like, you know, the audience there. That was just for me. And I loved it. I think it was at the Stanley, which is like this kind of seedy bar in downtown Vancouver. And again, I just felt it was so cool. I just fell into place. It felt so natural to be on stage. Some people can get extremely nervous, and that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with getting extremely nervous at all. It means you're passionate about it. But for me, although I get like a little bit of adrenaline and a little bit of nervousness, it more just felt like I'm meant to be here. Yeah. And it was just so comfortable and natural. And I remember riffing with the audience and just all came out so naturally. And I was like, man, I'm totally meant to be here. Like, it was so clear.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, well, it's funny you mentioned the adrenaline. Like, I love that, like, it's like the deep breath before the plunge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's always, before I get on stage, I always love feeding off that feeling.
Right?
And then everything
it's actually,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
Totally. You get it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going to mix up my tea a little bit here. So if you hear clinking, that's me getting caffeinated.
Yeah, we're doing this podcast. This is the earliest podcast I've recorded so far with anyone, so, and it's not technically that.
So it's caffeine time.
Exactly. So, you obviously performed quite a bit over your music career, and are there any particular venues or concerts experience that have stood out to you?
Yeah, more than one. My first amazing one was actually through VAMS, Vancouver Adapted Music Society. And it was at the Vogue. It was one of our strong sessions, the earlier ones.
Okay.
And I think that was my first time in a bigger venue with a bigger crowd. And I was able to I think I sang Alanis Morissette, You Ought to Know, or something.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't even know if I sang it well, to be honest. It was just a phenomenal experience, and there's some great photos that came out of that, and it really made me. And this was after my accident, so it was sort of like a pivotal moment for me where I really felt like I was singing again.
Yeah.
Because we haven't really gotten into it, but when my accident happened, I thought that music was over for me, and that I would never have a career. I'd never be able to even really sing again, because at first even just getting out a sentence was challenging. I have a C4-C5 spinal cord injury, so I am a quadriplegic. And when I first came out of surgery, I was almost fully paralyzed and had a 10% chance of walking again. So things had been quite shaken up. And yeah, so I was lucky. I had a pretty phenomenal recovery. I am able to walk, but with a limp. And then, yeah, it took time, but being on stage that time sort of was like, yes, I'm back. I can do this again. So that was a big one for me.
I'm sure that was a very empowering experience.
Yeah, it really was.
So we've talked a little bit about your live performance career and how you got into music, but maybe we could talk about your debut single, Lost and Found. So when I was listening to it, you can hear a sense of vulnerability and emotion shining through the lyrics. What was the songwriting process like in creating that track? And maybe you can give our listeners a little bit of what your mindset was throughout the process.
Lost and Found, actually, weirdly enough, was written a little bit differently than I normally write. Often I'll just sit down with an instrument and just sort of fiddle with chords, and then just start humming along with the chords, and then just start singing along with the chords, and then the next thing I know, I have a song. Yeah. Lost and Found was harder to birth. I started getting the piano line down, like a piano line that I really liked, like with that intro of the dun 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 dun, and kind of moving on for that. And then I started getting a melody, but the lyrics would just not come, and I was getting so frustrated because I normally don't write like this. And like, I know a lot of other artists tend to take a longer time writing music. They say it gives them more reflection, but for me, I sort of struggle because once I'm out of that original mindset, I find it difficult to get back into it. But then eventually I just kept working at it. a good way to put it, I went to an art gallery once where the artist came out afterwards and did a Q&A, and somebody asked them, what do you do when you're not inspired? And she responded, what can I do? I paint through the darkness.
Oh, that's
And that always stuck out with me. And I was like repeating that in my head when I was writing the song. It's like, paint through the darkness. You can just keep going, keep trying. And eventually this song came out, and arguably it's one of the better songs that I've ever written.
Yeah.
And so I'm really pleased with how it came out. So now I'm like, well, maybe I should like sit on some of these songs more often, see what genius might come out.
Yeah. Push through, right? Yeah, no, it's funny. You can't force creativity by any means.
Yeah. That's the thing. You can't force creativity, but weirdly enough, if you paint through the darkness anyway, so, well, I mean, first of all, you're still practicing, so that's always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, hopefully the creativity will still come through at some point. And I don't know, it's a mystery to me how I ended up with a better piece of art than what I normally do.
Yeah, and it just takes time, right, to curate it.
Yeah. I think maybe more than what for sure.
Yeah, so, all right, so the next question that I had for you was, you're obviously a member of the Vancouver Adapted Music Society. So what drew you to the organization? I mean, obviously there was a perfect fit in the sense of, being a musician and the program being up at GF. But what kind of drew you to that, and how was your experience when you first joined the organization?
So, as I mentioned earlier, I was in a major accident. I think it was 23 or just turned 24, broke my neck. And it was, well, compared to other people's recoveries, mine was relatively short, but it was still, I think it was 5 weeks in the hospital and 7 weeks at GF Strong Rehabilitation Center. And that's actually where the VAMS studio is located. And so when I was in my recovery, I had to pass by the VAMS studio every time I went to physio. And every time I would pass by and I would look at that door and I'd be like, not yet. Like, I can't. I'd be curious about it. I'd want to, but I'm like, I was broken and I was scared. But the thing about music is once it's in your soul, you can't, like, it never goes away.
Too true.
And it just sort of nestles there and waits until you're ready for it to come, to come back out. So eventually I did sort of connect with VAMS. I think it was through Dave Symington, actually.
Okay. No surprise there.
And oh shoot, what did you say? The video cut.
Oh, I said no surprise there.
Oh yeah. Right. And and then I was invited out to do the Music Saves video.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was kind of grateful for that because it was such a dip your toe in the water sort of thing back into music, because I was just sort of more of like a background character. I think I had a couple background vocals. It was nothing major. But I was still able to have this experience and meet a bunch of musicians. And of course, that really can't help but put fuel on the music fire, because it's just amazing to hang out with so many wonderful artists and musicians. And it was also awesome to see other people with disabilities easily doing music. And that was what I needed to see, because I was still in an able-bodied mindset at the time, thinking that it was done. Like, now that I'm disabled, it's done, which is just obviously fully incorrect. But it takes time to learn that, I guess, with a catastrophic injury. Mm-hmm. So obviously my love for music drew me to the organization, and my need to be able to do it still. And VAMS was the answer. It was the way to tell a person, yes, with a disability, you can still make music. So
yeah,
that's what drew me.
Well, that's fantastic. So, and I've been a part of this before too, but sometimes you perform with a live band and sometimes you perform solo as a solo artist. So how do you kind of come at this decision, and how do you find the two experience differ when you're performing?
I guess Availability of gigs really define whether or not I'm going to be with a band or singing solo. I kind of, take what I can get because I'm a starving artist in Vancouver, like a lot of us are. So I was invited to join the band originally, I think, by Digger Danny Sloan.
Okay, yeah.
I can't remember how we originally met. I think somebody must have just been like, "Oh, you guys would get along," and then we started making music, and it was really great. And he's like, "Yeah, you should join." And I was so grateful to be invited in to the group and be able to play with a band, because it's just a fun, different experience when you get to play with a bunch of people and just bounce ideas off each other and hang out and all that jazz. And then when you're on stage with a band, it's fun. It's like, you got your guys supporting you. For me, it was an all guys sort of supporting it. And like, even when you mess up, you got like it's neat, like you got support, where they sort of are able to kind of keep the song going and kind of cover it up in a sense, and nobody ever knows. And then I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. And then singing solo is still dear to my heart, because that's obviously kind of how I started and how I was doing it for the most for a large period of time prior to my accident. It was just me and my guitar, and I really do enjoy singing that way. It's more challenging for me to do solo shows now because of my disability. So I have nerve damage in my hands, so playing instruments is very difficult. I've sort of managed to fandangle it enough that I can kind of get away with playing enough chords to write music, but in terms of playing on stage, it's still a little messy. It's not really professional quality or stage quality. So I kind of have to use backing tracks now, which tend to be like in the music community, like, backing tracks, that's horrible, that's karaoke. And but I kind of have to be like, well, it's, my adaptive device.
Hey, you still wrote the music, right?
Yeah. So I guess availability of gigs, being offered to be invited into a band, which was phenomenal. And I can't remember the original question, but I'm pretty sure.
No, you did. Yeah, just what was the difference between kind of performing with a live versus solo?
Yeah.
So, when we were actually kind of just making a few notes before we started, you mentioned that you were born and raised in Vancouver.
Yes.
And maybe I
think I'm rare.
I know, right? You and me both. So how has, growing up in the music scene in the Lower Mainland impacted, what you've done musically, and specifically too, how has it inspired your music? Because again, we live in one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Oh, that's a good question. I guess I'm not too sure how it inspired me. It's wherever you are. What am I trying to say? I have met some absolutely incredible musicians here in Vancouver, which has been amazing. So, I suppose that's the biggest way that it's influenced me, is just by the people who are here and who I've met. Maybe I should write a song once on the scenery of Vancouver, because it deserves it. But yeah, the people here, I know, I've heard, basically, because I don't gig that often, but I've heard that the Vancouver music scene is very challenging. And I know that music in general is, I don't want to say dying, but struggling, because people are forgetting how important it is and what it's worth. So I know that, but maybe that challenge is, no, that's not right. I think I'm lucky that I've got Vancouver Adapted Music Society, which is actually very rare. I was at a conference once, and I was speaking with a physio, I think she was, who lived in the States, and she's like, how did you get this? And I was like, oh, it was just there. And she's like, yeah, this doesn't exist in the States, like, at all. Nothing like this exists in the States. And so I think we're really lucky in Vancouver here in terms of people with disabilities that we have a lot of different supports. And like for musically speaking, obviously VAMS, and there's also Kickstart and Wingspan that are also artistically inclined and support music artists as well. And the fact that I kind of have 3 of these organizations to be able to work with is unbelievably phenomenal, because like I said, in other places it simply doesn't exist. So maybe I should say that's the thing about Vancouver, is that we have these organizations that can help us, which you might not find anywhere else. So that was a long road to get to the answer.
No, it's true. Like, again, having lived, whether it's in the States or not, it's such a unique niche that, Vancouver actually does have specifically for disabled musicians.
Yeah.
Surprising
and it's
program.
given me it's an amazing program, and it's given me so many opportunities to get back on stage. I mean, like, not only did it inspire me to be able to do music again and trust myself to do music again, I didn't get thrown out into the, I don't know, the fighting pit, like I don't know the good metaphor, but like I didn't get thrown out into the able-bodied world where everyone's clawing and scrambling and trying to get these gigs. I'm actually really comfortably safe in in this disabled I don't that sounds weird just to label it that, but I am given gigs still despite my injury that I would not get in the able-bodied world, simply just because of circumstances that I don't want to get into that, but
and
I wouldn't be able to get those gigs
as well.
Pardon?
And the talent in Vancouver as well, just in general.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot.
Yeah.
It's a big competition.
Yeah. So, I read that you had some pushback when you decided to pursue a career in music, and heard certain things like and I've heard this as well, but is this really a practical career? Regardless of that, you still decided to enroll in the musicianship program at Douglas College just before your accident. What kind of prompted you to pursue that? And given that, again, a musical career isn't practical, as we kind of just talked about.
Yeah,
and
it isn't. It's not an easy career.
No. And do you still think that that kind of mentality or kind of sense is somewhat promoted by the society today to pursue a musical career?
Okay, so the beginning of that was what prompted me to do it despite being told it was impractical. Again, that the music in me would not let me not. I loved it so much that I could not pursue it. I just couldn't. Like, I don't really know any other way to say it. I remember my dad telling me, like, he's like, you should really like do pharmacy tech or something, and I'm like, what? Like, me? No, like that, no. And there was nothing else that I really wanted to put my hands into, and yeah, he's like, you take a practical career or you move out. And so I moved out, and I paid for it on my own, and I went through it on my own. And I think I had sort of imagined that at the very least I could possibly turn it into like a teaching job or something. If I wasn't able to create a musical career, that I could actually just be a musician and pay for my for life as a musician. But at the time, there just wasn't a choice. There wasn't a question. It was just inside me that I was like, I have to do it. I don't care if it's not practical. I need to do this for my soul, or I will wither and die. You know how emotional people can get.
Especially musicians.
So yeah, that's why I went into it anyway. And the hard truth is that it is an impractical career. It is not easy to make money in music. It's especially now that we've, switched to streaming services, and people are getting paid pennies, fractions of pennies. It's like 0.00 something per song that somebody's paid, which is just it's just a massive amount less than what musicians used to get paid. My friend was telling me that the Beatles, if they had made one of their records, I forget which record she said, but she said if the Beatles had made their record today, they would have lost money. And like, right, like that's kind of a huge sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so how is any musician able to make a career off this? So I'm very lucky in that I have an amazing day job that kind of keeps me going anyway, and I think a lot of musicians have to have a day job to go with it.
Yeah.
But the desire to create music again is just sort of in you, and can't be denied. And so we push and we persevere and we try to do it anyway. But it's definitely something that needs to change, and I think people need to know more about how the industry, the way it is crippling musicians in terms of being able to make music, and that things have to change. I understand that there's a different way, a different model that some people are trying, and I think that might be what I might try out, is where you basically offer your music for free, but you say pay what you can, and that musicians have actually apparently been fairly successful because the people who love their music are willing to put into them creating more music, really. So I might try that, because putting music on Spotify, I know is not gonna. I'm gonna get like $10 a year, maybe.
Yeah. No, the pay what you want model for sure definitely is a way to monetize it more, because then again it goes directly to the artist. Right, instead of, if you're doing with a label or something like that. And again, labels do have their place and can really help promote for tours and things like that, but
yeah,
you're right, just again the cost to actually create a track alone versus
is what. Yeah, I was, because I'm now starting to record my first album ever. It took me long enough, and I'm like, whoa, this costs a lot, and I'm paying on the cheap end of things. Like, it costs a lot of money. Like, one song is at minimum $2,000, and then it goes way up from there.
Yeah, no, it's just a different. I mean, luckily though, we're in an area where technology makes it somewhat more accessible.
This is true, and bedroom music, like bedroom pop, but I think it's just becoming all music because, we can get pretty great systems in our homes, and if you've got the production knowledge or experience and knowledge, you can create some great music on your own, which obviously will pull down the price tag quite a bit. But but then that's the thing, like artists are being forced into being like, you didn't need to have to be a singer, a guitar player, a producer, a marketer, like you didn't have to be all the things, back in the day. And so artists are being forced to do all the jobs, so it's becoming an even more difficult career, and for some people with disabilities especially, that's especially difficult, if you're dealing with chronic pain or chronic fatigue or any of those things. And plus, like we said, we have people have day jobs to try and support their career.
For sure.
I mean, I suppose we could talk about that one for quite a bit of time, because it's a really interesting topic, actually, and definitely deserves to be talked about.
Well, just especially how the music industry's changed, just in general, like since the late 90s. But I do want to touch on one thing you again brought up, people with disabilities. And one thing that I've asked everyone that I've had on the podcast was, if you had one piece of advice to give with someone who has either just had an accident or, has been living with one for a while, and had an interest in pursuing music, what would you tell them to inspire them to take that leap? Like, as you said, you started by dipping your toes before getting back in, but what would you kind of, say to them if they're on the fence?
Yeah. I think it's slightly different for people with catastrophic versus people who have been living with it for a while. So for people with catastrophic injuries, I would say allow yourself to hurt. Allow yourself to go through the mourning period. because you're likely going to find that you may not be able to do music the way you did before, but that does not mean you can't do music in a new way. And I know that for me, it hurt trying to do it in a new way, because you cling to the past, and I wanted to cling to playing with my guitar, and I just can't do that anymore. But after some time, getting over the pain of it, I've now been able to make amazing music in different ways. So yeah, for a person with who's had a catastrophic change, I'd say give yourself the time to allow yourself to mourn, and then like for me, it worked to just dip your toe in it, to start doing some things that you love and start experimenting. I definitely advise checking out VAMS and seeing what they have to offer in terms of playing music a different way, adapted instruments, and that sort of thing. And then that part also, I think, would tie into people who have had an injury for a long time and are just curious about music, full, and just try, like, experiment, have fun. Like, I think that's the most important part, is just to have fun with it and find the joy in it. Because you're never going to continue music if it's a job. I've heard about so many pianists who were like forced to do piano for however long, and then they just like, no, I ain't ever touching piano ever again in my life, because it was they weren't allowed to have fun with it and have the joy of it. Because that is the best part about music, is when there's something inside you lights up, like, I did that, I created that, I was able to do that, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, have fun for sure, and just try, experiment.
Yeah, just take that plunge.
Yeah.
So, you joined the society, but you were also actually on the VAMS board, and
yeah.
I wanted to ask you in particular, what are your hopes for the program moving forward? I mean, let's forget about the pandemic. It's kind of put everything on halt right now. But what with some of the initiatives that we've been doing, and how do you see the program growing?
I don't know that I'm the best person to answer that question, because I'm just on the board. I just go, oh, cool, that's what you guys are doing. I love it. I agree. Keep going. Sort of what the board member's job is. But I am really impressed and really excited about what you guys are doing. Because, Graeme, it's obviously you are spearheading a lot of these initiatives, and it's so cool what's being done. I love the mobile what's it called, the mobile
studio?
What do you call it?
Yeah, the mobile studio.
The mobile studio. Yeah. That's really cool. That immediately, because accessibility is a huge issue. And I mean, in terms of COVID, at least you still have a mobile studio. You can kind of like move it around.
Yeah.
And getting the main studio together finally, I know it's been a long road, but it would be really awesome to see that full studio in place, because like I said, for me, going through GF Strong, it was really awesome to have that place to go to, just within the rehab center, because it tends to be a pretty small world right after the accident, and so having that access right there is really going to help anyone who's interested and anyone who needs to get back into music, I guess. There was something else that anyway, I'm just really excited with the ways that VAMS is reaching out, trying to involve new people and get more people involved. And because the idea, I think, is just to help as many people as possible and give access to as many people as possible, because if you don't know about it, then you can't enjoy it. And I think you guys are doing an amazing job trying to bring it to the world. I would love to see like concerts are obviously a big one, giving people the opportunity to get up on stage, allowing them, the veteran, I guess, musicians that have been in the program for a while, still a chance to get on stage. Because as I said, the able-bodied community is extremely challenging. Never mind talking about venues and accessible venues, because that's a big issue. Stages are up, like, so there's only so many venues that we can even perform at. So having that opportunity and allowing us to still play is invaluable to us, right? Because just because we're outside of the, you know, the initial rehab, I mean, we still want to play and we still want to do things, and still contribute to Vancouver Adapted Music Society as well. Yeah, so I guess, yeah, you guys are already doing it. And I don't know that I can really add to it right now because I'm just really impressed with everything that's been going on. I'm really stoked. It was already something awesome, and it just keeps blossoming into these more things. Like, I love this podcast idea. I love that, you know, when COVID hit, there's more ways to outreach. And again, like, you guys are still thinking outreach. And it's super cool. Because the more people who get to enjoy music, the better, right?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. No, and it's everything. It's the management, it's the board, it's the artists, it's the clients that influence all this. So, no, it drives everything. So, no.
And sort of my idea was, if I could help anyone have a similar experience to mine, then that's it. 100. I'm like, done, check mark. Like, that's what I hope for, is to give people the same opportunity that I had, because it changed my life, changed my world, allowed me to get back into the thing that is me.
Yeah.
And if I can do that for anyone else, then heck yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, I mean, we are in a different state right now in the world. For instance, we can't access the studio, understandably. Venues aren't opening right now. So since the pandemic has started, how have you been feeding your musical passion?
So I'm really, really lucky. I got a grant from Creative BC to pursue making a demo, and it's turned into something definitely more than a demo. It's this is going to be one of the songs on my future album. That's my goal anyway.
Yeah.
So I've been really lucky to work with some very talented, like Laura Smith. She's producing the album. I've been working with Carolyn Quinn, who's been my vocal coach, as well as she's vocal producing the track as well, and producing, sort of like a combo deal. And I've also been able to work with Lisa Pensing, who is just, she's like stupid awesome. I'm really lucky. So originally I was going to actually work with her, but circumstances changed. So then I had to work, I don't want to say I got to work with Laura and Carolyn. And it's just been an amazing experience, because you don't necessarily always jive with your producers, I'm told. And it's just been such a cooperative, joyful learning experience, because the truth is, I am still quite new. I'm uneducated in the ways of recording and doing all these things, because my life took such a huge hiccup. I'm sort of got derailed, and I'm just getting back on. And they've been so patient and so awesome, just sort of being able to teach me how to actually do things without, like, because I kind of just ask for everything, and they're like, actually, do you know what you're asking for? Oh, sorry.
yeah.
I did not want to put that much work on you. Okay.
Wow,
because, you know, I mean, you're laughing. I think, you know, as a producer, you know how much effort some of these things take, that outside people are just like, oh, just do this. And you're like,
wait a minute.
Just do this.
Pre-production.
That's actually going to take like 8 hours.
Yeah. No, that's funny.
So yeah, I've been able to fuel my music by creating another song, and I believe this is going to be on my album. It's a really great song. I'm really excited about it. It's called Dancing with the Flames, and the idea behind it is that things, you know, life has its issues that we sometimes just have to deal with, and sometimes there's no happy endings to these problems. Like for me, it's the chronic injury. It ain't going anywhere, and I just have to deal with it. So the idea is that you learn to dance with the flames, and even though you got the crap, you can still just kind of dance with it and go through it and still be okay in a sense.
Yeah.
And then even when and like one of the lines is, even when you're down, like, you know, you can just get back, you know, one of those inspirational. I shouldn't have said that. It's a bit of a cliche. People say that all the time. Like, I'm down, I'm gonna get back up. Like, but it is part of the song, and I mean, it is, you know, often said for a reason. But yeah, that's the idea. Sort of dancing with the flames and being able to get through things that may not have a happy ending anyway. So you're not necessarily going to get through this. You're going to be able to do this. Is sort of the idea behind the song. Yeah.
Well, no, I look forward to hearing it.
Sounds so cool.
Yeah, and I believe you said it's going to be finished around the end of the month?
Yes.
Okay.
So I laid down the vocals this past Saturday for it, and Laura, the producer, has done some great work just putting them in. We've got lots of some harmonies and some awesome doubles, and it's got this like really cool sort of ethereal, I don't know how to say that word, epic kind of vibe.
Yeah.
It's sort of electronic pop house, I guess.
Okay.
Well,
no, having played your stuff before, this is a little bit of a departure.
Yes, it is a bit of a it's a bit of a step away from what I normally do, but I've always wanted to do something like this, but I've never had the opportunity or the ability to do it. So I kind of jumped on it when this all came down. So I think that even though it's definitely different from what I do, it's still probably going to sound like me, I hope.
Yeah.
No, or maybe not, and that's going to be a good thing. I don't know. I'm actually nervous, excited to put this out in the world and see what people think, and because it is a bit of a different thing, but I think it sounds really great. I think it sounds really professional, which is what I wanted. Well, obviously because I'm working with professionals. And comes out on by the end of the month at the latest. It'll be out, and it's gonna go up on Spotify, and I'm gonna get my fractions of pennies, hopefully. So please listen away so I can get a whole penny.
Yeah. No, for sure. And we'll obviously promote it on VAMS.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
See, and this is awesome because VAMS is there to help me. Even I love VAMS. You guys are great.
Now, to take us out is Kristina's Lost and Found.
Skipping, dancing across these stepping stones, awkward feet, eyes intense and focused, trying to find the beat. Tunnel vision stuns me as I yearn an attempt to skipping, dancing across these stepping stones, awkward feet, eyes intense and focused, trying to find